Welcome to highlights of round 4 of HRZN Racing League's 5th season from China. My name's Chris, otherwise known as Screen. We're going to be taking you through our second wildcard race of the season, and one where drivers had to use an intermediate tyre for at least one lap in the Grand Prix. Certainly made for some interesting strategy calls. A little bit of admin prior to getting into it though. We do have a new driver stepping from the reserves and into split 2 for Red Bull is HRZN 04 And let's take a look at that calendar this round for a week off next week. So a little break for the drivers. 2 wins for Sandro Wagner, 1 feature race for Brandon sprint for Tommy Soulful. And in that sprint it was a 3-second victory for Tommy Ash over Sandro Wagner. I'm your mate there in third. Senna, Jimmy Alex, Scottish Vampire and Sign finishing off the sprint result points. And in the feature race, I'm your mate took the victory by 0.3 of a second over Tommy Ash, with Soulful Griffin taking the final podium spot. Vampire driving today for 2 late recovery drives. Sandro Wagner took the bonus point for fastest lap. That means Sandro Wagner now has an 11-point lead over Tommy Ash, with making third, 2 points third. 2 flatter drivers on 0 could change very, very soon. In split 1, Tommy Ash took the lead for Imola with a single point, with a further 7 back to Griffin. 6 Pompano and Brazza still in the demotion zone, still plenty of time to make that back up. In split 2, Sandro Wagner has a very comfortable lead over Senna, who's looking at promotion. Now, Petrol and Jimmy Alex closing in. There will be 9 drivers in that by the end of this round as well. And in the Constructors, Mercedes take a 22-point lead into this round, with RB second and Ferrari in third, Alpine just a point behind Williams down at the bottom of the table. So China debuts on the HRZN Racing calendar this season. It's going to be a step into the unknown for all of the drivers. It's certainly going to be an entertaining one with those intermediates enforced. But let's take a look at this track that opened in 2004. It's a 5.451 kilometre track, 16 turns, 9 to the right, 7 to the left. Lewis Hamilton holds the record with 6 wins here, but the lap record dates all the way back to the first race set by Michael Schumacher, 32.238. So here we are heading underneath the grandstand. There's a beautiful looking part of the circuit into the never-ending turn 1. You want to clip the curb on the inside, let the car roll to the outside before bringing the nose back in and trying to drift it through. Then it's a late brake and tight through turn 2. Carry a little bit of the curb if you can, but again it's a never-ending, seemingly, corner before this little kink at 3, leading down to a heavy braking zone at 4. You could see plenty of moves here. It's not a DRS section, but a real heavy braking point like that can lead to moves. This section here, nice left-right sweeper. You will need to slow down coming into the second part of this chicane now, but you can power back out a bit before the double left apex here. This is another place where you really need to set the car up, ready for another onslaught for anyone around you. Coming into this, again, tight braking zone, but real swift movement from left to right, before letting the car run out wide, getting the power down nice and steadily, trying not to slide the back end out before this long back straight where you get DRS about halfway down. Attacking, defending, could see 2 or 3 wides down here at multiple points of the race before the real heavy braking zone into the hairpin at the end. You can run it out wide on exit, but you don't want to get too into that curb in, otherwise it will throw you off, and then it is a quick throw to the left just to get it through before starting another one. So that was a lap of the Shanghai International Circuit. Let's take a look though at the grid order for this race. I'm your mate takes yet another pole with 6 Pompano in second, Tommy Ash is third with Vampire fourth, Scornful Griffin, Jimmy Alex, Bunny's Vengeance, Senna, Bazza and Perpetual rounding out the top 10. And finishing off the grid for this one, Andy Rudin, Mago, DJ Davasaurus, the Scottish and Sandro Wagner at the back. And we're going to take a little look in just a second at an incident in qualifying, the action starting before the race between the Scottish and Sandro Wagner. So we'll ride on board with the Scottish here, taken from his camera and his incident report. As you'll see just to the right hand side, Sandro just coming out of the pits on the racing line. The two of them collide, Scottish is out, Sandro retired from the rest of the session. That was a 10-second time penalty post-race. We follow Tommy here as well though. Appealed for impeding, but comes up to the scene of the accident at exactly the same time, so there's no further action for Sandro on impeding, no further penalty. But as you can see, cars scattered everywhere, Sandro just trying to get out of the way. So as I said, the action kicking off before the race has even begun.
Well, that was distracting, to say the least.
I know, I got impeded.
So the Scottish and Sandro at the back while I'm at the front, and the enforced intermediates. All promises to be a great race. Let's get to the action. 1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, and 5. And off in the distance. Away we go in China. Let's ride on board with I'm Mate, and immediately 6 Pompano's gone by. As they go into turn 1. Scornful Griffin and Vampire fighting out for 4th place. Tommy's held 3rd. We've got movement all over the place. Andy's gone backwards. Mago's gone backwards. Scottish already up to 10th. Maybe I should have started back there. Davasaurus and Andy fighting out at the back. But 6 Pompano takes the lead in the McLaren. As we see Senna go for a big dive there. There's carbon fibre. And I think that's a Scottish. It is indeed the Scottish. He's gone round. Still running, but has lost a few positions as Mago goes way off into the dust and falls to the back. Has the Scottish got damage? Maybe a little bit of front wing damage, but seems okay. Let's take you through the points of view of the drivers off the start line. We'll start with I'm Mate, who has been on pole quite a lot this season, but has had issues getting off the line. Same here. Keeps the revs low. And you think actually he's gone away with it, but before you know it, the McLaren of 6 Pompano is right up the inside. There's a little bit of contact, but nothing to damage either car. Little bump from behind from Tommy as well, as everybody concertinas into this tough 1-2. Looks like he's actually managed to get away pretty scot-free other than losing the position. And we'll go chasing off after the McLaren up into turn 4. Once again, getting quite close. But not close enough for a move.
Good luck, boys. Alright, good luck, lads.
And then we move back to Tommy Ash in 3rd place. Bit more revs on the start, gets into 2nd gear nice and early and is really pulling away from the guys behind. He watches the front 2 go wheel to wheel. And you see that, just a little bit of contact there. Gets a little bit up into the back of the Ferrari. But again, no damage for any of them. Looks possibly at trying to get a run off turn 2, but the leader's already heading down towards turn 4 with just a little bit of breathing space.
Whoa.
We'll head back with Vampire. Don't adjust your sets, there is some audio issues from their perspective. But here we are with Vampire in the Mercedes. He's got Tommy to the left of him, 6 and I'm Mate ahead. Again, bogs down a little, as you can see from the rev counter at the start, at the front of the car, but does lose the position to Scorn as the audio kicks in. All gets just a little bit tight. You can see the Scottish wiggling behind in the mirror, but also managing to get through cleanly with no damage, only losing the 1 position very briefly before maintaining his starting point. And then we head a bit further back once again, this time to Bunny's Vengeance. Real high revs as the lights go out, but gets a real smooth start. He's got Senna up the inside and everybody, again, concertinaing up in front. Keeps the car pointing in the right direction, manages to avoid any contact whatsoever. Tries to sweep round the outside of Jimmy, which is the inside for turn number 2. But as he's heading down, you can see just fighting control just a little bit. Vampire is ever so slightly lagging, and then gets the brake in just a little bit too late. Goes into the back of the Mercedes, catches just a little bit of front wing damage. Bad luck for Bunny. We'll watch that one on board from Jimmy Alex here as well in the second of the two RBs. Gets off the line really well, really smooth getaway, and he's already gaining on the cars in front. Everybody again concertinaing down into turn one, keeps himself to himself on the inside, gets a little kick of oversteer and nearly loses the car. And you'll see the Alpine just on the inside there, nicking the position away. Good traction out of turn two, again keeping himself to himself, keeping some space around him. But you'll see there, Bunny a bit late into the back, and then all of a sudden, Senna's up the inside, Baz is round the outside, wheel banging galore. Jimmy manages to get away without damage, but has lost a couple of positions to the guys up ahead. And we'll see that from Senna's perspective now, in the Sauber. Once again, really smooth getaway into second gear before you know it. Really stops him bogging down and gets a great second phase. But once again, nice and careful into turn one, trying to keep just a little bit of space. There you go, Jimmy getting the oversteer there. Into the back of the RB and oversteer for himself. He's got Bazza on the inside, wheel banging. All getting a little bit chaotic in the mid-pack. But as Senna goes into turn four, he just misjudges the braking, not everybody up ahead having their own instance. And he dives up the inside. It's a bit of a dive bomb, but he survives and gets away with it. Before Bazza takes a little look and decides, for the best, to back out of it.
Bunny, stay off that curve because it will not be your friend.
No damage. If you damage your rear wing, you'd have heard about it on that block.
And let's see that from Bazza's perspective in the Ferrari, because he seemed to be the one that everybody was in and around. Mid-pack gets a really smooth start once again, really looking completely settled as he goes. Tries to stick to the outside, which actually affords him a little bit of space. Then the Senna Jimmy contact there means he can get up the inside of the Sauber. The wheel banging just as the radius tightens in the exit of turn two. Heading down now through the kink at three again, a little bit of side to side contact. There goes Senna, and all of a sudden he's round the outside of Jimmy, who's become Riccardo's Zonta in that instance, and sees both cars go by. Has a think about it into the next corner. Decides to back out a bit, probably for the best.
As Bazza just ahead of Jimmy, saw Sandro getting past Perpetual in the background. Let's move back up to the front. No DRS on this lap, but it is a long straight. You can really get the slipstream down here. I'm your mate Tommy, right in the wheel tracks of Six Pompano, who've got a mega start. Is he going to hold I'm your mate off? He is. He absolutely is, and that could attract Tommy through the gap. Almost three wide into the final corner as the Scottish moves past Sandro. But Six and Tommy diving in, maybe just to get those inters out the way early. We've got a few others in as well.
Let's ride on board with Perpetual just a little bit later in the first lap. You can see here the Jimmy Alex Bazza incident has kind of sorted itself out up ahead. But Sandro and Scottish trying to look to come through the field, and Sandro's up the inside before they get to the tight right-hander at the top. Perpetual gets a little bit on the grass and on the curb and loses the back end, then Scottish sneaks through as well. We'll follow it with Perpetual because Sandro and Scottish obviously have had their incident in qualifying and have started side by side. The Scottish keeps it on the inside, gets the speed on, gets the drive as Andy tries to come up the inside as well of Perpetual. The Scottish just about gets it stopped, gets it up the inside of Sandro. He's ahead before the end of the lap.
Who's in all together? Mago, Dabasaurus, Scottish, Bunny's Vengeance, Tommy Ash, and Six Pompano all into the pits. Maybe, just maybe, getting those inters out. Let's take a look, shall we? Yes, they are. All of them going onto the inters now, getting it out the way, do one lap, come back in, and get tyres on to the end of the race. It's a solid strategy, that. I'm going to keep tyres on for just a moment because I think that's going to be key for what's happening, as I'm Your Mate pulls out a 1.2 second advantage on Scornful Griffin. Where else have we got the battles here? Vampire right up behind the Aston. As Senna and Bazza, let's ride on board with Bazza. Had a really solid start, moved up to 5th. Hasn't had any instance that I can see, I don't think anyway. He's looking fairly clean and tidy. Senna is not. He's all over the curbs going through there, and you can see the back end trying to step out. There's a 1.7 gap back to Jimmy, so Bazza should be fine. He'll get DRS here as well. It'll be an easy pass with the DRS. Bazza moves up to 4th. As a bit further back, we've got Jimmy and Sandro going side by side. Jimmy trying to hang it around the outside. Sandro blocks him in there. Nicely done. And Perpetual might fancy a bit of this as well. As Jimmy now comes in. He's going to get his stop out the way.
Going to jump on board with Jimmy Alex here, heading down the back straight into the hairpin. You'll see that Sandro Wagner up the inside, just about gets it stopped in time. Jimmy getting a little wide, a little wriggly on the curb, and then Perpetual thinks about going around the outside, but we'll watch Jimmy into the pit entry. Far too hot, nearly into the wall, turns it back in time.
So 1:34.5 for I'm Your Mate up at the front. He's 2.1 seconds clear already. As Vampire, let's ride on board with the Mercedes man. He's right up behind Sandro. We'll see, I'm sure, a spate of pit stops. Everybody 10th to 15th, getting rid of those intermediates as Jimmy goes on to the inters now. Yep, there you go. 6 is in, Tommy's in. I'd assume Scottish Dabosaurus, Bunny and Mego will all follow suit.
Back on board, this time with Tommy Ash. He has the inters on, so he's got that stint out of the way, but once again another chaotic pit entry, nearly into the back of the McLaren, nearly into the wall once again. Manages to just about save it.
Yeah, you got time for
With Vampire, the Bazza Senna battle just back there as well. Loses a little bit of time. We'll probably lose a little bit of front end through these corners, stuck up behind the Aston as 6 gets back out in front of Tommy, the Scottish. Just in behind Bunny's Vengeance, DJ Dabosaurus.
Let's ride on board with Bunny's Vengeance as we get onto the back straight. You can see that he's already looking all over the back of the Aston Martin of DJ Dabosaurus, looking for that route through, but the DRS is super powerful down the back straight. He's out from behind the Aston and way in front before he even gets anywhere near the hairpin. A real clean, solid move. Overshoots just a touch on the hairpin exit, but manages to stay in front.
As the leaders are heading up to the hairpin, those guys who've taken their intermediate stoppers. Vampire goes for Scorn. Bazza did think about going for the move as well, but sensibly backed out of it. Are any of these guys going to jump in now and get their inter stint out the way? Doesn't look like it. They're all still going. Senna taking a shallower line through the final corner. Seems to suit him well. We'll stay with Scorn now as he goes for the move on Vampire and regains the position. But all this fighting is just letting I'm Your Mate ease away from them. As I was saying, these guys, because of taking the stop early and then going on to inters and having to do that lap, they are the best part of half a lap behind. Andy, there you go, coming through turn 2, 6 Pompano, just coming down to the hairpin, and we jump back just in time to see Tommy go by as Vampire and Bazza going side by side further up the road. I'll hopefully catch that one later as Tommy goes past 6 with the DRS, but you'd anticipate that it'll be a return serve here down the start-finish straight. We'll stay with 6 just for a moment before we head back to the battle up for second. No, 6 not close enough. Because as you can see, the gap between Andy and 8th, who's not taken that stop as Senna clips the back of Bazza. It's a seemingly never-ending corner, but the gap shrinks very quickly through turn 1 and 2. So I don't know whether that was just misjudged from both sides. Gaps between Scorn and Vampire and Bazza starting to just extend out as Sandro's going to make the move into turn number 4. A bit of wheel banging there, I think. Does Senna lose the position? No, he's going to fight it. This is a brilliant bit of driving as Tommy loses a position to 6 and Senna does eventually back out of it.
Let's take a look at the Senna-Sandro incident first. As you see, Sandro getting up the inside at 4, Senna just a little overcommitted. Bit of wheel banging.
Sandro's just bullied his way through. That's just silly.
Little bit over the line, but then Senna gets a big kick of oversteer and Sandro's gone before he can get back.
Sandro.
These are all over the place.
Further back, Tommy with 6 Pompano. Looking fairly comfortable at the moment, but you can see the McLaren rearing up in the background. Tommy gets it into the hairpin nicely, but then a massive drift and kick of oversteer, manages to save it from the barrier. 6 goes through. Tommy lives to fight just another day.
Okay, focus. We need to stay on form.
1.6.
Sandro elbows out passing. There was a general warning put out to all drivers about overly aggressive manoeuvres. They've all been just about in the lines this season, but I think a few drivers getting maybe a little bit upset with some of their some other drivers' actions. As Baz has dropped out of the DRS to Vampire, and he's now got to defend from Sandro, who's all over the back of him. Baz are very wide. Don't know whether there was a tap there. It didn't look like it, but he's going to be under threat here. Can he defend into turn 1, or will he defend into turn 1? No, he'll leave the door open. Take it sensibly. He's now right in behind Sandro. Let's ride on board with Baza for a second. He's got Senna pushing him along. We're bump drafting in F1 cars, boys. Everybody gets through that cleanly. He's okay. It takes a little bit of grass there through 3. So these 3 now have kind of dropped off the back of Scorn and Vampire.
It's right on board with Baza for that one. Into the final corner, you can see Sandro just behind him. Little bit of contact, but Baza also runs just a touch wide. You can see the tyres already looking pretty worn on the Ferrari. Not really an awful lot you can do against Sandro with the DRS. But Sandro gets a little drifty just where the traction breaks away and there's a little bit of contact. Baza stays in the fight with no damage.
Let's ride back to 6 and Tommy. They're still scrapping and they're allowing the Scottish to close up. Top 3 of our out of the way intermediate strat drivers, and the gap now to Andy 35 seconds as 6 runs a bit wide. Is Tommy going to go for the move? Tries the switch back as Davasaurus is the first to get time penalties. Did try the switchback, didn't quite make it, but now the Scottish is going to be within DRS by the end of the lap. Let's ride on board with Tommy here. This should be a fairly easy DRS overtake, and is the Scottish going to attempt to go? I think he's a bit too far back there. As 6 thought about coming back. We'll get DRS again down the start-finish straight. I think this one's going to rage on, but as long as they don't take too much time out of each other, because they're going to need it to catch back up to the guys at the front. I'm your mate at the moment, just about trying to pull himself out of everybody's way after pit stops, but it is going to be close as Tommy gets wide. Looking all around the car for 6 there, and again trying the switchback. Very nearly did it. They're closing. We could go 3 wide into the hairpin. No, everybody sensibly backs out of it there. Very good heads-up driving by all 3 of them as they wriggle their way out of the hairpin through the final corner. How's this going to play out, these 3? I think they know they're fighting for a fairly high position post pit stops. We've got battles at both ends of the track. I think 6 has lost it a little there, but he stays with them. I don't know whether he's just lost the back end, didn't quite catch it all.
Let's watch that one again on board with Tommy. Heading down into turn 1, trying to keep the most defensive of lines. You can see 6 just in behind, but then a huge drift. Both of them doing it, clipping the curb and almost losing the car. Scottish gains a place. Tommy just about stays in front.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just literally tucked in behind the Scottish.
Oh, okay, cool.
We literally just did the exact same thing though, just hitting that curve a bit.
He's got his teammate behind him, the two Mercedes, line astern, not really making any moves to change that as Bazza goes up the inside of Senna. We've joined that at the right time there. Great move from Bazza on Senna 17 as Sandro's... No, I was going to say Sandro's gone past Vampire, but Vampire in. I think this could be the moment that Vampire takes the inters, comes and goes. Sandro's going to have to go another lap. Obviously, they won't overtake after this first stop, although it does appear that Vampire... Senna and Perpetual have moved on to the inters. Vampire's moved on to the hards. As Scottish goes past Tommy, we were kind of watching the timing towers rather than the moves. Right, it looks like a clean move by the Scottish, always a very clean driver. Senna lose some time as I'm Your Mate now takes the option to go in as we watch Sandro going for the lead as it stands. And he does it. Or does he? Scorn coming back on the inside. Great little switchback move from Scorn. Has been knocking on the door of a race victory so far this season as I'm Your Mate takes the inters. Baz is in and I'm Your Mate's in. Are they going to have to double stack? Ferrari very quick there as Vampire moves past them both. There is a little delay. Not brilliantly coordinated there between the two Ferraris, but not too bad. So Vampire, Scorn and Andy, I think, still need to move onto the intermediate tyres as Scorn goes past the Mercedes. Is Scorn now going to just try and drive away and get on the inters at the end? So I'm Your Mate, I think, really very much in the box seats here. The Scottish has maintained the gap, but I'm Your Mate is keeping away from him. We've really settled down, but there's still 12 to go as Senna has a little look at Perpetual. Doesn't go for it now, but might do in the very next couple of corners. Again, had a think. They got into the back of Perpetual there. He's backed off though and let the McLaren go. I think that's fair racing. I think just a little misjudgment on the brakes as Tommy goes past Bunny, who moves completely out of the way. Didn't fight that at all. Tommy took the fastest lap there for a moment.
Let's watch the battle between Senna and Perpetual from Senna's point of view. Into the final corner, gets his braking all wrong, goes into the back of Perpetual. Leaves him to go ahead though, which is fair clean racing. And from Perpetual's angle, all kind of starts off back up at the top of the back straight. You can see Senna's closing in just from the arrows there on screen. Doesn't go for a dive bomb, but Perpetual runs wide out of the hairpin, which does invite Senna even closer. Before you know it, little bump, big drift, keeps it steady, keeps it calm. Senna leaves him to go.
I'm Your Mate moves past Andy, who still also needs to come in, but we'll watch Vampire here on the mediums, round the outside of Vampire. And we'll watch Vampire behind just in case he tries to go for the cutback. He won't make it. Not close enough as I'm Your Mate sets the fastest lap, 34.1.
On board with I'm Your Mate here, hunting down Andy after his pit stops. It's a fairly easy move on the DRS, unfortunately for the Haas. But the overspeed the Ferrari has is mightily impressive. I'm Your Mate, keeping it clean, keeping it tidy, keeping it out of the way.
Perpetual and Senna still fighting it out down at the hairpin as we join that battle now. That looks to have settled down just for now. Tommy, though, closing up to the back of it.
Seconds out, round two between Senna and Perpetual here. Senna gets a really good drive off the banked corner at the top of the back straight and has the DRS to boot. He's way on the inside up past Perpetual, but really struggling to get it into the racing line, goes very deep into the hairpin and then drifts. On board from Perpetual's point of view now, as you can see, both really hitting maximum attack pretty much halfway down the straight. Senna's gone by here. You think that the move is done and the job is done. Perpetual brakes late enough to stop Senna from getting back to the racing line. and he switches back and Senna runs off the road. Really good heads-up driving there.
I think Senna's made a mistake or has had some contact as Baza goes past 6. Score now 33.9 into the fastest laps. It'll be interesting to see what happened to Senna there, because he has dropped back, fallen behind Baza, Perpetual, and almost into the clutches of Tommy. As 6, weaving around behind Baza, gets past down at the hairpin. Easy enough to do with the DRS. It is fairly powerful, but you do max out as 6 is now in. That means the only real fight on track at the moment is Perpetual, Senna, Tommy. As Jimmy goes past 6 because he's not quite come out of the pits yet. Senna, is he going to go for the move? Yes, he is. Late on the brakes. Forces his way up the inside very nearly. Gets done on the cutback. And Tommy nearly went into the back of Perpetual there as well. Well, it was close. It was close. Tommy now, though, will jump on board for a little bit with Tommy because he's really trying to make a bit of a comeback here. He's on the freshest tyres of this bunch, or not quite. Senna on the fresher tyres, but obviously I think had an off or something somewhere in the lap just previous. Tommy now will get DRS. Perpetual has dropped off the back of Senna, but should still get DRS for the activation. Yep, he does indeed, but Tommy with the overspeed, is he going to go for it into the hairpin? As the Scottish is coming in now as well. Dabasaurus has moved past Mago down at the back. The Scottish, I feel, might go to mediums here, as we'll stay with Tommy, because this is really the battle on track at the moment. Tommy trying to get up the inside. Perpetual, I think, trying to make a move on Senna, but doesn't quite make it. Tommy's through. It looked a little bit close, very close for comfort there, but they all survive as Bunny's Vengeance now goes into the pits. I was going to say 6 and Jimmy fighting it out. And 6 has got through. Has he got through, or is Jimmy, I think, still behind? No, 6 has got through. Gets her on the lead into the back straight, as Tommy does now go past Senna fairly cleanly as well. Sets off after Baza up ahead.
Let's jump to Jimmy Alex here, getting it a little bit wrong through the sweepers into the double left-hander. Car looking a real handful, and he's got 6 Pompano just in behind him. Gets into this little left-right sequence before the back straight, and still the car just wanting to break traction everywhere. 6 has a nice easy move down the inside. Jimmy not fighting it too hard.
Cheers.
Okay, we've lost a position. That's us down a place.
And we immediately switch to the other RB of Tommy Ash against Senna. Gets it real late in terms of his movement. Gets up the inside of Senna on the start-finish straight before T1. Looks like a nice clean pass, although probably will have caused both of them to just be a fraction scared for just a second.
Baza's going to lead the way. So the DRS is going to be his enemy this time around. And with any luck, though, the 4 of them fighting each other, as I thought Scottish was looking at a move then. He's already nabbed 1 or 2 out through that corner. We're right on board with Baza because we'll get to see all of them together. Tommy's going to go for it. Scottish already moving past Senna. The DRS is just going to help him. Senna moves right back into the slipstream to try and fight back, but it's the only move out of these 4. But Scottish is the one making the moves at the moment on the mediums. Very fresh set of mediums as well. Looking really pacey, quietly just making his way through the field here. At the moment, Baza would fall from 6th to 9th as Tommy tries to go for a move on Baza round the outside. Beautifully done. Will Scottish now try and follow through? Is Baza going to hold them off? Baza just about keeps the Scottish behind, but he's going to have so much better drive out of turn 2. Goes to look up the inside at 4, locks it up, but makes the corner. Will he keep in front? Yes, he will. What a move that was by the Scottish. Quietly, just quiet assassinations as it goes. Just, here he is. There he goes.
Back once again with Tommy Ash, this time up behind Bazza. He's got Scottish close for company as well. Uses DRS to his advantage there to get round the outside of Bazza into turn 1, and if you take a look in the mirror behind, you can see the Scottish is also trying to follow suit. Gets it on the curb, but makes sure it's nice and clean and stays in front of the pair of them.
Maybe it should be a sign to Madrid that I've put 10 seconds on in the last
Let's watch from Bazza's perspective now as he goes into the final corner. You can see that front left is already screaming to stop as he heads up the start-finish straight. Tommy already by before we're even anywhere near the breaking point for turn 1. Does try and hold him out there, but then the Scottish is on the outside snooping around. Doesn't, again, manage just about to hold the position. Gives it just enough room as Scottish tries to get the nose up through 2. But the car looking just a little bit skittish under traction, and then Scottish will dive to the inside. Late on the brakes, locks it up a bit, but does make the move stick.
Okay, we've lost a position. That's us down a place.
He's now going to be chasing Tommy down. Tommy's going to be the one leading them through with DRS. This could get feisty because, as I said earlier, Tommy has been quick and consistent this season. Whether or not he manages to keep that up all the way through, because at the moment he's losing ground on Scorn in the split 1 battle, but Scorn yet to get the inters out the way as we watch Scottish now up the inside of Tommy. We'll look a bit further back as well as Senna goes past Bazza. These 4, though, still really close together. We'll stay with Sandro. Fairly easy overtake with DRS. Also on the mediums, much fresher tyres. So he goes, nice and easy. And he will maybe try and fight it back, but the front 2 have obviously already passed the pits. Senna doing a little bit of wiggling there, a little bit naughty. Doesn't seem to have affected anybody. There was Bazza. Nice easy pass with the DRS. Really well done. Has looked really clean this race, to be fair. As I said earlier, it's been a shame that he's had such a miserable start to the season. It's just been caught in the wrong place at the wrong time a lot. But is really proving his worth today. Andy's going to have to come in as well. And surely Andy knows that. Yep, Andy's in as well. As Senna Bazza still going. Senna's past Bazza down the back straight. Right then, who's going to end up where?
More pit entry shenanigans later on in the day, but with Andy, who's managed to run a set of the hards at quite a distance in this race, pitting at the end of the penultimate lap to move to his intermediate stint. Once again, just too hot on entry. Very nearly puts it into the wall, just about saves it.
As Tommy goes past Vampire. Oh, that is got to be devastating for Vampire. Driven so very well.
Once again, back with Tommy, who's been in the thick of it at the tail end of this race. It's the final lap, and he's desperately trying to hunt down Vampire, who's running his intermediate stint in the final lap of the race. Gets into this corner. Looks like Vampire ghosts and heads off. No contact at Tommy's side, but Vampire struggling for traction on those inters. Let's flip that round though. Watch that from Vampire's perspective now. Again, don't worry about the audio, do not adjust your sets. As we head out of turn 2, you can see the revs just hitting the limiter where the inters are trying to get traction down in this dry track. But before you know it, little bump from Tommy. Couple of little bumps actually where the ghosting's in effect, and the car both gets caught on the front of the RB and struggles for traction. Vampire loses that position.
Watch aim your mate through the hairpin. He's going to head up to cross the line and take his second win in a row. So it's 2 for Sandro, 2 for I'm Your Mate, and a sprint win for Tommy. I'm Your Mate takes first. Sandro Wagner's going to take second, followed by Mago, who's a lap down, who's going to be in 15th position. Scorn is going to finish in third, just ahead of the Scottish, who valiantly tried to catch up as Senna and Baz are fighting down into the hairpin. Baza does obviously have the 3 seconds. Tommy is going to cross the line in 5th place. Vampire takes 6th. Senna 7th. Baza should hold on to 8th. That's a really great drive. 6 Pompano with Perpetual right behind in the McLaren's line astern, 9 and 10. And he takes 11th. Jimmy back there on his own in 12th. Will take the final point for this one. And will be followed home by Bunny's Vengeance in the Alpine, and then quite some distance back as Bunny crosses the line backwards.
So that was round 4 in China. Let's take a look at those classified results. I'm Your Mate wins by 15.6 seconds over Scornful Griffin. The Scottish takes third with Sandro's penalties and fastest lap. Baza takes my driver of the day for a really assured drive after a pretty terrible first 3 rounds. For the drivers stand-in, Sandro Wagner and I'm Your Mate now level on points at the top. A little bit ahead of Scornful Griffin, who's just ahead of Tommy, and then there's a bit of a gap back to Vampire. Baza's points moving up to 17th and off that bottom clutch. In split number 1, I'm Your Mate takes a 12-point lead out of round 4 ahead of Tommy. Scornful Griffin is in third, just a few behind. 6 Pompano and Baza now both have points, but have got to go a little bit to catch Bunny. And in split number 2, Sandro Wagner breaks the 100-point barrier. He's well ahead of Senna in second. Perpetual, just a few further points back, is still trying to hunt for that P2 spot. And Mago jumps into 8th. With his first full-time drive netting him some points. In the Constructors, Mercedes break that 100-point barrier as well, but Ferrari move into second ahead of RB. Alpine, the only team on single digits other than our reservists, but now trying to hunt down McLaren as Williams climb to 7th. Well, the action kicked off in qualifying and it did not let up through the race. It has been a fantastic wildcard event in China. Hopefully, a week off will settle the drivers down before the 3rd wildcard at Silverstone. But from me, thank you very much. Do like and subscribe, share if you want, do all that good stuff. And I'll catch you on the next one.